Good morning, everyone, again. We're going to continue with the scatter plot today. For learning objective, I can justify the relationship between two quantities using a scatter plot. Language objective you'll be using through the lesson. The scatter plot shows a positive, negative, or no relationship. There is a gap, a cluster, or an outlier. So let's start with the lesson today. To identify a relationship, an outlier has a value that is much greater than or much less than other data in a set. A gap is an interval that contains no data. Cluster, closely grouped data in a graph. Let's see if we can describe the relationship between the data. Identify any outliers, gap, or cluster. Television size in price. If you can see right here, the dots shows a trend, a positive linear trend, positive linear relationship. The price will increase every time the television size increase. That's what a positive relationship is. We said a cluster is a grouped data in a graph. So there is a gap between $0 to $500. Sorry, there's a cluster between $0 to $500. There is a gap between $500 and $1,500. There is an outlier, which is outside of the data, has nothing to do with that line. 70-inch TV that costs $2,200, probably $50. On the other hand, the age and pets owned, all the dots are scattered everywhere. I can't say there is a gap. I can't say there's a cluster. I can't say there's an outlier because there is no relationship. So if there's no relationship, that means there's no outlier, cluster, or anything. Again, the points appear to lie close as a line. As x increase, y will increase. So the scatter plot shows a positive linear relationship. There is an outlier at 70, 2,250, a cluster of data under $500, and a gap in the data from 500 to 1,500. The points show no pattern with the age and the pet owned. So the scatter plot shows no relationship. There are no obvious outlier, gaps, or cluster in the data. Now it's your turn. Answer the questions before you move on. Describe the relationship between the data. Identify any outliers, gaps, or cluster. Now that you answered the question, here are the right answers. The scatter plot shows a negative linear relationship, which means the heating cost decrease every month. There is an outlier for some reason. On month 7, it costs you $600. There are no obvious gap or cluster. There is no gap or cluster between those data. Describe the assessment for learning for today to describe the relationship between two quantities, and you were able to do that. Identify an outlier, cluster, and a gap. Please submit your homework from Google Classroom when you are done with this lesson. Thank you, and see you next time.